Hello and welcome to the Eternal Witnesses podcast, your favorite Magic podcast for legacy, vintage, and modern. I am Dan Atkins, and I am joined with everyone's favorite bald and bearded podcaster, Michael Mapson. How you doing, Mapson?
Uh, I am not my favorite balded and bearded podcaster.
I don't know what the competition
How
is.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's getting a little warmer here in the Northeast, so get to go outside and enjoy the weather. Some of the snow is melting. Even though we had a snowstorm last week, it was like 60 degrees the other day. I can't wait for summer. That is what I'm excited for.
Yeah, it is definitely nice that the weather is getting warmer. Um, I have been. I hate the snow at this point. It's funny because I used to love the snow. It's not the snow that I hate; it's the cold. I can't do the cold, and so it's been really nice watching it warm up.
Yeah. Yeah. Warm weather is the best. All right. So we got some fun items this week. First, a little bit different format, but I recently played in a Pauper event, which is hosted or was hosted by Sarge, Alex Sargent. If you don't know Sarge, he hosts great events in the Philly area. So if you ever see one and you're free, please come to them. They're incredible. This one specifically was hosted down in Philly. And there were around 88 players at this Pauper event. I'm not typically a Pauper player, but I do love supporting Sarge, and Pauper is a fun format. It's a little bit like Legacy Light, some people say, but I really enjoyed it. Mapson, you were there too. So,
Yes,
yeah.
I was there. I was not playing. I was the judge for the event, as I have been for the last three. Um, Yeah, it was fun. The Sarge events are interesting because Sarge is a good friend of ours, and I talked to him a lot about comics. But so what Sarge does for these events is he really likes to hold them in the most random places that he can find, and so there's always a bit of a logistical challenge with that. This was a little bit different because it was the first one that was just like at a store. But there was still a bit of a challenge where we couldn't fit everybody into one room, so we had it split into two rooms, so that makes it fun. And I had to communicate with my floor judge via walkie-talkie. Um, but also the staff was the staff for like the actual shop were all on the walkie talkies too. So I was just like missing things on that. So a lot of texting. I usually don't text so much when I'm judging a Magic tournament, but it was fun. Players seemed to have a good time. So definitely glad for all the people who came out. But yeah, how was, like you said, it was great, but how was your experience with the format itself?
So the format was good. I will also mention it's not a Sarge event if it doesn't have some great ambiance. So I remember previously we played in a Legacy event, and the top eight, the lights turned off. So we played it by candlelight. It was the first time I played Magic by candlelight. Would recommend. But this Pauper event, I played Poison Storm, which is not probably a top 15, top 20, maybe not even a top 30 Pauper deck, but I really enjoy it. Mostly, I enjoy Poison Storm because it doesn't matter what my opponent is doing on the other side of the board. I don't have to know what all of those little white common creatures are or the red ones. Doesn't matter. I just play a bunch of spells, proliferate a bunch of times, cast Weather the Storm 2 or 3 times, go up to 40. My highest life total, I think, was 57 at some point during the tournament. And then I just slowly cast proliferate spells until my opponent is dead. I've played it a few times and I really enjoy that deck. It's really truly solitaire, which I don't do a whole lot in many other formats. So having a format where I could just storm out a little bit is a lot of fun. Overall, I believe I went 4-3, so a slightly positive record, but had a great time nonetheless.
It's actually really interesting hearing you talk about how much you like the solitaire deck. So the listeners don't know you as well as I do yet, but I think of you as a very interactive gamer, right? In Legacy, you play a lot of these pile decks with like Solitude and Swords to Plowshares, very Death and Taxes-esque. And I also know there's been a few times in Modern where we've been like playing the same deck, like playing Breach, for example, and come to this list. And the next week, all of a sudden, yours is a bit more interactive. I'm like, we can just kill them. And you're like, oh, I want to interact here and there. And then, so I just think of you as this very interactive player. For you to come out and be like, haha, I got to combo people It's different.
It scratches a different itch. I will say in Legacy and Modern, I know the format's a little bit better, so I know where to interact. So Legacy, I like cards like Meddling Mage, where I know what to name. If my opponent plays one or two cards, I could typically guess what their deck is going to be. In Pauper, 2 or 3 times just in that tournament, I played against decks I didn't know existed, which was great. I played against Walls Combo, which if I was more familiar with the format, I probably would recognize that because it's not too unpopular of a deck. But they just killed me on turn 4, goldfished me, and it was really it. I loved seeing it because I have a Walls EDH deck, so I got to see all those cards. So I played an EDH in Pauper, which was fun, but I died very quickly. But yeah, so
Yeah, it was. I have been pretty out of touch with the format, so it was a little bit interesting to me to see what was happening too. And like, for instance, the Cogate deck I knew was a thing, but I never cared enough to really understand what was going on there. It was funny because I had seen the list before and looked at like the lands and spell. Sorry, not the lands. I looked at all the spells and creatures and been like, I don't think I fully get it, but whatever. And then I saw somebody activating the land for the first time. I was like, wait, what's that land do? I'm like, oh, this is why this is a deck. It makes so much more sense now. And yeah, so just getting to see things I didn't know was kind of fun for me too.
I had that same experience watching that Gate deck. Didn't know like you're attacking with 1/1s, how are you going to win? And then they just out of nowhere pumped their guy for a lot.
Yeah, round one of the last matches was a gate smear, and that did look like hell. But I get it.
Definitely. So some other events that have been going on recently, you have been playing some No Ban List Modern, which we are a modern podcast. This is pretty much modern. What have been your thoughts? Have you played any interesting decks? What has been the most exciting for you?
Yeah, so no banless modern went up on MTGO. Uh, I guess just last week, and I have been playing a fair bit. I wish I could have played even more to be better prepared to talk about it, but I've definitely been interested. And actually, what people might not know is during COVID, I actually like helped run a no banless modern tournament on MTGO. So this isn't like my first foray into the format, but it's been a few years. There's printed a lot more powerful cards, so it's been it's been pretty exciting diving into the format. It's also interesting because it presents this kind of unique challenge where there's just not information, right? Like the whole time I've played competitive Magic, it's been in this age where you could go to MTG The Source or MTG Salvation or eventually, MTG Goldfish or MTG Top 8 and see, okay, what are people doing? Like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy what they're doing, or even if you don't want to copy, you can see what they're doing and plan around it and get ideas. This has just been kind of like, this seems like it could be a thing. I wonder if it works. And so it's been really interesting, and it's funny because part of me is like, give me the deck list, like show me the information, and part of me is like, yeah, this is refreshing. So I haven't fully decided how I feel about the lack of information, but I'm definitely enjoying myself.
Yeah, it definitely makes you flex your brainstorming and your deck building muscles a little bit when you have to rely on just screenshots people have on Blue Sky or Twitter, or maybe somebody posted something in a Discord, as opposed to just looking through the latest deck dump and saying, "Oh, that's a really cool list," which is difficult to do, especially in a format like this where you kind of understand what's going to be strong. We know Eldrazi is probably going to be really good. We know Storm is probably going to be really good, and Breach and Nadu, the decks that were pretty much the entire deck was banned. They haven't really been together a lot. For instance, cards like Urza Saga and Sensei's Divining Top haven't really existed in one format together outside of Vintage. And I'm seeing a lot of that. A lot of people seeing or using Glaring Fleshraker and Sensei's Divining Top, which, if you're not familiar, if you have two Sensei's Divining Tops and a Glaring Fleshraker, you can draw use one top to draw the other top off the top of your library and cast it with the Fleshraker. When the Fleshraker triggers, it makes another little guy, Eldrazi spawn, that you can use to cast another top. Each time doing your damage one opponent, so it infinitely does damage to your opponent. Very strong combo. We see that a lot in breaker shops in Vintage, but seeing that in Modern has been really interesting. What have you tried out?
Yeah, so, the Eldrazi deck you were just talking about was
Yeah.
definitely my front runner for
Mm,
what was going to be the best deck, and I definitely want to circle back to that deck because I think there's a lot going on there, but as for what I tried, I started off with Dark Depths, not super surprising to anyone who knows me.
naturally.
It's also historically been one of the best performing decks in no banless modern tournaments, so I kind of just figured, hey, here is a reasonable place to start and dip my feet in. LSV and Reed Duke had posted a video playing some No Bandless Modern early last year, I think. So I was able to just kind of take the list LSV played and take that through a league. It's underwhelming. Um, then I played some Breach. I, like a fool, decided to cut green and just played blue red Breach. And I really missed Malevolent Rumble. It's, like,
That card's very
insane
good.
how the card is so good in that deck. So then I played another league with Malevolent Rumble. Um, then I played Canister, had 5-0'd with an artifact-based Nadu list, which is just an absolute wild thing. I should have actually gotten that ready to pull up to show people, but that is a monstrosity. So I played that, and then I played, Eldrazi, and then I in the middle of a league right now with a more normalized Nadu list. Then I saw like this mono blue like Flashraker pile that looks really sick that trophied. So that will probably be where I go next. But there's just so much you can do in this format. There's so many cool things you can do. And so I also did find the canister list I was talking about. So I just want to pull this up for people. And this kind of gives you an idea of like how deep you can go in this format because like you can play the things people know. Also, nobody judge my I pulled it up on the wrong side. Nobody judge my bookmarks. But anyways, so he's playing like I said, an artifact package where he's all in on like he's got Mox Opals and Mim Knights, Shukos and Skull Clams, Pinnacle Emissaries, so that he can play Pinnacle Emissary and then play all these zero drops and warp them. Which gives you your fodder for your Nadu plus Shuko, but also you can skull clamp all the ones you make. And it's just so cool. I don't know, it's just this isn't something that we ever got to experience, and I think it's really neat, and I think seeing cards like Skull Clamp get play again is really exciting. Obviously, I think Nadu is exciting. A lot of people don't. I get it. But yeah, there's a lot, and those are just the decks I've played, but there's a bunch of other decks in the format. So like I know Brian Cook was the first person who trophied. He trophied with like a blue red storm deck. I've seen Oops, I've seen KCI, I've seen Mono Red Prison, I've seen Mono Red Belcher, I've seen Big Eldrazi. Caleb Dirtward is like actually, as we're recording, he's streaming right now with the deck where he's got like Scape Shift in this like Cloud Post deck, and I just watched him just like have an amulet out and then Scape Shift for 4 Cloud Posts and untap them and just get to Kozilek's
Just
command for X equals 14 on turn 4. Um, so that was sick. Um, I've seen people playing just like energy. They're like, I can do anything. I would like one Amped Raptor, please.
that's all I want. Hopefully they at least
uh,
had Skull Clamp or something in there. I don't know if that's good, but it seems like if you're making 1/1 cats, Skull Clamp might be the place you want to be.
yeah, I don't know, but there's just so much you can do in this format. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Um,
As for watching Caleb stream, anytime Caleb is brewing, whether it's Legacy or in this new format, I always like to tune in because he is a very good brewer. He always has
yes,
fun ideas.
he's been the person who first played some of my favorite decks. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of I know you haven't played yourself, but I know you've been watching the streams. Like, what are some of the cool things you've seen going on?
Yeah, I've tried to tune in whenever I can to various people playing, whether it's Dingo or Caleb, and I really like watching some of those cards, like I said before, that I haven't seen play together, but also just things like Treasure Cruise. Sometimes you forget how good Treasure Cruise is. You're like, oh, it's all play for such a short amount of time in Legacy, and then somebody plays prowess with it, and they are casting like Treasure Cruise twice on turn 3 with because they have a Dragon's Rage Channeler out, and every single spell is surveilling and just turning through the deck, and they're drawing so many cards. It is so aggressive. So that was a really impressive deck, just the prowess with Treasure Cruise, and also watching Gitaxian Probe go off again too. Just free spells are so good. Everyone knows free spells are good. Free spells are really good. So if anyone needs a flashback of why these cards are banned, this is exactly why they're banned. But on that note, it is interesting to see how level the whole format seems to be. Obviously, this is brand new. There's also not a lot of data. So maybe if and when there will be challenges for this, then we might get a little bit more people seeing what the top deck is, and then more people jumping onto that top deck. But for now, cards like Mental Misstep are really holding things together, it seems like, especially when some of the most powerful cards like Sensei's Divining Top are only 1 mana. Then you have this free interaction with that to slow some of these decks down, which I think is really cool, especially against Storm. Storm has been really popular, and having Mental Misstep against Storm can be helpful. So I liked those. I will note some cards that I'm not seeing as much. So I really like Birthing Pod. I know, Maps, and you do as well. Birthing Pod was one of my favorite standard decks. I know there's a Naya Birthing Pod deck that I think Brian Kibler played, and it was a thing of beauty. It was so much fun. I think I played that in Bant Birthing Pod. What was that, 2011, 2012, perhaps? But you would play your Thragtusk, I think Siege Rhino. Was that the same standard? I don't remember. But Birthing Pod is such a fun value engine, and also a combo engine too. But mostly I like it for the value, as you could expect. And I am interested to see if any Birthing Pod lists show up. It seems like Wizards is not necessarily using this format to see like, oh, what could be on bans. That's not really, probably not what they're looking at, especially because it's hard to see what's actually good in a format like this where everything is so powerful. But I would love them to look at it and be like, well, in this format, this saw no play. There might be a reason for that. Maybe it's not so strong. And then they can bring back Birthing Pod. I would love it. Just think of like right now I play Birthing Ritual, which is like worse Birthing Pod. It's only 2 mana, which helps a little bit, but I would just love to Birthing Pod out some like Oculus. Ooh, that'd be so much fun.
I do want to disagree with you that it's just worse Birthing Pod. It's just worse Birthing Pod to you because you like playing with value, right? But they're
True,
like,
true.
it's just not the same thing because you can combo with Birthing Pod in a way that you cannot with Birthing Ritual.
Yeah, we both know that if you gave Birthing Pod to me and Birthing Pod to you, one of us, you, would probably put, Kiki Jiki and like crazy stuff like that. Me, on the other hand, I more like ramp my 2-drop into Deceiver Exarch, untap it into like, I don't know, something much more fun, something value ended. I might actually play Siege Rhino. Siege Rhino is so much fun. Maybe a Restoration Angel. Bring back all the old hitters.
I would have
I love those
Deceiver
cards.
Exarch and Restoration Angel.
I just, I would be attacking for 3 and you'd be attacking for 10,000. So
Yeah, I'd be having fun. I don't. What's wrong with that?
I'm just trying to play the most Magic possible. That is, which we were talking about Pauper and how it's unusual for me to play a combo deck like that. I will say I was still playing the most Magic possible because I went 2-time very often. I didn't actually get any draws. I would usually be able to win in time, but it's not a quick deck. So I like playing a lot of Magic.
So I think it'd be fun to talk about like we kind of did a quick hits of like what is good and
Mm-hmm.
what maybe not be so good in this format. But I do want to just dive a little bit deeper into the Eldrazi deck.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, normally I would pull up a list here, but it's so hard because, as we talked about, who really knows what the lists are? But I definitely did think going into this that this was going to be one of the easiest decks to build, right? Because you have your Urza Saga to find your top. So 4 of those, like you're going to have your Eldrazi Temple, you're going to have your Flash Raker, and then there's just so many powerful colorless spells you can play. And I do think this deck is really good. It's been really consistent. It's probably the deck I've lost the most to. It's also the deck that I think I've played against the most, so that I think those go hand in hand. But I do think it's actually more difficult to build than I initially thought, and I'm not sure if people are building it right. Like, I kind of question the Cloud Post mana base. It's really, it's really, really effective when you get to the late game, but early game, I feel like it's so difficult having your cloud post come in tapped so often. So I'm curious, like, if that's actually the best way to go, or if it's better to play something like Ugin's Labyrinth. But then when you play Ugin's Labyrinth, like, how many 7 drops? Do you know how many 7 drops you have to play with that card? Because I know I don't.
I don't know either, but I imagine it's more than people want to play. There
Yeah,
definitely
but
seems to be two schools of thought, like you're talking about, whether it's the Cloud Post mana base or some of the traditional Eldrazi soul lands that we're seeing today in, normal non-banned Eldrazi. Uh, Also, an interesting dynamic with Cloud Post when you're just thinking about what mana base to go with is it is symmetrical. It's every Lotus in play. So I've seen a few mirrors for cloud posts where one person plays their cloud post on turn one, the next person also plays their cloud post on turn one, and you already have 2 mana on turn two. You play your second cloud post, and now you have 3 mana, and it's just who has the biggest spell first, and it is wild. So if you're not interested in that, maybe it's better to be more aggressive with your labyrinth.
it's true. Though I feel like when I play Post, I just try to ignore the fact that the mirror can exist. And like, if it happens, the world will be awful for an hour or whatever, and then we move on with our lives and never talk about it. Um, but that being said, I do think, because I want to play with this deck more, and I think I will play with Ugin's Labyrinth. And like, I've seen some Eldrazi Tron lists, and I
Hmm.
don't feel like they're playing a ton of sevens with it. So like, I don't think you have to go that high. And I don't know, talking me into playing Devourer of Destiny into my colorless combo deck isn't that hard anyways. So like, I'm happy to play that, and then I don't know, maybe a couple Sire 7 deaths, and then that gives you a backup plan. And I think, like, if you just play it as a 1 drop, it's not the end of the world.
Hmm.
I mean, not as a 1 drop, but like
As a
a
single
1 mana
mana
land.
producing land. I was gonna say, even nowadays, do they play more than 7 or 8? With the 4 Devours, maybe 2 or 3 Sires, and then
And
I
then it's
don't
like an
I
All's
don't think
Dust,
oh, an
maybe
Altos,
like
maybe an Ugin.
maybe an Ugin or two.
Okay.
I think the list I was seeing were around like 10 or 11. So like I don't think you have to go that hard. Because you only need one in your hand, and
Hmm.
you're generally happy to put it under the land. It's not like Force of Will where you're like, but it's my only brainstorm, you know? Um, so I definitely am interested in trying that. I'm kind of interested in trying it with Mox Opal. You told me that seemed like a bad idea. You might be right. But
Yeah, I really don't think you could support enough artifacts in that deck.
so I think you can play Mind Stone. Maybe that's wrong. But you play like a lot of people are playing Pithing Needle. And I've found Pithing Needle to be pretty useful in this
Hmm.
format, honestly, because there's a lot of Nadu, there's a fair amount of Breach, there's a lot of Hogak where you want it. I found Pithing Needle to be something I'm generally happy to draw anyways, so I don't mind playing like an extra copy of that. If you're playing with Expedition Map, though, in this build, I don't think you would need it as much, but your Expedition maps, some people are playing like Soul Guide Lantern main, so you could do that. But you also have your 4 tops, right? So I think I think it would be on the low side, but I think you can play it because you don't need it online like turn one.
Hmm.
But I think if it's online by turn two, three, then you're pretty happy.
Would you play some
Um,
artifact lands, like maybe a Tree of Tales or the indestructible one?
maybe. I honestly hadn't even considered that. And then if you are playing with that, then you can open yourself up to playing Mystic Forge if you
Hmm.
want. And I think Mystic Forge could be really strong, which I'm also like not sure. in this build, like a lot of people are playing Karn with Cloud Post, which I think is great. But I think in this build, maybe you don't play it because you're not going as high on mana. Even if you're
Right.
getting there faster, you're not necessarily getting to like 10 to slam Karn Lattice, you know?
Right. You're getting to like 6 faster, but 10's a big step up from there. Where you want to do all that in one turn traditionally. So that makes sense. Yeah, that is an
Yeah, but
interesting
I'm
thought
interested
as
in,
to where to go from there. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I'm just interested in trying it. The strategy is really strong. You don't necessarily need to combo. Just if you put two glaring flush rakers in play, that's also a combo. Um, Kozilek's command is really good. There's a fair amount of graveyard stuff. Or maybe I'm just running into a disproportionate amount of Hogak and Storm. But I'm pretty happy to just cast a Kozilek's command. So I think this deck is really good. But it's also interesting because people know that and like everyone has consigns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a similar thing with Hogak. Like I feel like so many of the lists I've seen just have 4 Leyline of the Void in their sideboard. Like
Mm-hmm.
people are coming with the hate.
Yeah, but even with the 4 consigns, you have so many haymakers in that Eldrazi deck that they can only consign so many things, which is certainly helpful. That is something I've noticed watching this format unfold is some of the unbanned cards seem to be the highest performers. Like Fleshraker. Fleshraker has just been insane every time I've seen it. For ramping you, killing your opponent, everything. And same with Cossack's Command. That card, I personally, I don't like it, but it just does too much for a like. Why can a colorless card do way more? It's a pick two. It does way more than any of the other commands, in my opinion. It's an X spell, so it ramps with colorless, which is already making a bunch of mana. It's a removal spell. It ramps you. It's card selection. It's graveyard hate. It's just way too much. But it's here, so it's not like we're getting rid of it. And that card has been really, really strong. Did you run into that much when you were playing Dark Depths? Because I know with a format that has Solitude and Kozilek's Command, that can be difficult.
Yeah, I definitely got I I was so annoyed. I had somebody, they saw 3 Kozilek's commands in like the top 12
Mm.
cards of their deck, and I was just like, "Can we stop? Like, how many merit lages do I need to make? 3? I can't make 3. I can make 2."
Yeah, it's not even like Source of Plowshares where it's like, all right, well, I gained 20 life, so at least I can like play for another 6 or 7 turns. You get nothing. Nothing for your exchange. And then they'll look at 4 cards and put 3 back on top so you know you're losing anyway. Oh man.
But yeah, so that was my experience with that deck. I think that deck's really good, and I
Hmm.
recommend if you're not sure where to start or having a hard time finding a list, like that is one that you could definitely just kind of jam a bunch of colorless things together, and it can only be so wrong. Um, I would also say, moving on to like Breach has probably been my favorite. Um, and Breach is really funny to me because do you know how I built my Breach deck?
How like before the like currently in the no ban list, how you built it?
Yeah, like how I figured out what my list should look like.
What'd you do?
I just took Jesse Robkins' list and changed like 6 cards because the deck was already busted.
Right.
You
It's
just
like
like
it all
add
they needed one card.
Jataxian Probe. You added Jataxian Probe, and then I like shoved in some Ponders. Like, um, I don't actually think the deck wants to play Chromox because playing too many. You're playing too many colorless spells, and you were already really good at generating the mana between Mox Opal and Mox Amber. I also like slid in a few artifact lands, so like your Mox Opals are always on turn 1. Yeah, Ponder is really good at finding your stuff, although I'm really bad at drawing Ponder. But Jataxian Probe is like really good. It's also Jataxian Probe with Tamia is really sick. It's so easy to flip that card.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just had games where it was like turn 1 Tameo, Mishra's Bauble, crack Mishra's Bauble on your turn, like untap, draw for Bauble, draw for turn, attack with Tameo, play Probe, flip Tameo, still have 2 mana to do whatever else I want with.
Oh, yeah. And most of that was just legal cards for when Breach was legal. Like aside from the actual Cataxian Probe, but like the amount of times you could flip a Tameo on turn 2 was great. It was so much fun.
But you didn't always have mana left over. Like, you just get to keep doing more things, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I won on I won by turn 3 so often.
And the Cataxian Probe, so you can see like if the coast is clear. Usually it was a fun game in Breach where you had to do a bunch of really weird lines where you had to keep a certain like blue floating for something just so you could respond to a fairy macabre or something, um, or some kind of graveyard hate, and you just don't have to. You just know, oh, you have nothing, you're just dead. That's it. No guessing about it, which is really strong. Uh, the I think you mentioned you put like Seed of Synod in that deck or Artifact Lands, and that is the stability that offers Mox Opal is like shouldn't be overlooked lightly. That it really helps. I felt when I was playing Breach when it was legal is you had your Mox Opals and you had your Mox Ambers, but and then your Baubles. But like a lot of times I was stuck with one or maybe two artifacts, and it was you would have to wait till like turn 3 maybe to get your full Metalcraft on. And when your lands are contributing there and also producing mana, it's not like you're using the colorless artifact lands that are legal in the format. It really ramps you so much. It feels so much more like a vintage deck than a modern deck at that point because you have so much free mana, and then you have the card draw, and then you just win the game. So it's so
Yeah.
resilient.
I played a game where my opponent cast Meltdown. Can't remember if it was like a 4 or 5 for 1. I think I untapped with a single permanent and I killed them like very easily like the next turn. It was just
Yeah.
like, this is dumb. Like the deck is so sick. I missed playing with Breach.
Have you put Nadu
That's
in the Breach deck yet? Because that
I
was one of the
haven't,
most
but
one of the most fun modern decks that I played right before the ban was the Nadu. Because like you're going off with Nadu and your opponent already feels like they're dead, but you're just getting so much value. You're not actually going to win, and then you just draw the Breach and like, oh, actually I do win now. So much fun.
yeah, I do remember doing that. And the thought was in my head, but I haven't done it yet. But I guess, maybe we should talk about Nadu. So I talked about Canister's list, which
Mm-hmm.
Canister went 4-1 on his stream, and then I played it and it went solid. It did remind me how miserable it could be to play Nadu online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really like taking game action so much, but you know what Moto hates? When you take a lot of game actions and the
Especially when you're
board
doing the
gets
same
clogged.
one over and over again. Good luck.
Yeah. So it would just freeze the game. And also the thing that's so tough is it's so hard to know what things you've used because when they're all the same, it just like stacks them in a row. And it's like, well, which of us have you used? Did you use me or me? And it's like, you look the same. It's like, what do you mean we look the same? We're different. It's like, you don't though.
Yeah. I
Um,
saw somebody playing an Elves list earlier, which is very similar. You have multiple Quirion Rangers or whatnot, uh, other elf type effects, and you just have a stack of them. It's like, well, which one do you get to balance and play again, and hopefully pick the right one? Like you just don't know. Like in paper, like some people do that thing where they turn their cards around. So you're like, all right, I used that one, but I didn't use this one. None of that online.
yeah, so that was rough, but his deck was really sick. Um, But I am also playing a traditional list right now, which has felt better because I did feel like with Canister's list, I was mulliganing really a lot. Um, I mean, it was still good, and I still won more than I lost, but there's a lot of awkward hands. Also, fun fact, I'm currently trying to figure out how to build a vintage version of that deck. I've made some good progress, drawn some sample hands, played out the first few turns. Um, all the hands are like either the sickest or worst thing you've ever seen. Um, there's like no in between. There's like no medium hands. It's just like, oh yeah, they're so dead with me having forceful backup, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like none of this does a thing.
Does
Um,
the vintage version play the card that you tap it to untap a permanent and you can target itself? Or am I thinking of? Are there
are
any
you thinking
other?
of Feto Alchemist?
Yes.
No, I wasn't playing it.
Okay.
Um, that has seen play in vintage Nadu lists in
Mhm.
general, but
Are you playing
um,
your Sea King's Blessing? I know you purchased some CEDH cards for
you
Nadu
know, I
that
thought
were
with
a.
Mark off the podcast, I'd never have to hear about that again.
Of course not. Maybe someday, you get to use that nice Legends card.
Yeah, thanks for that. Um,
We're all about
but
good
anyways,
financial decisions here on this podcast.
So moving on, playing a traditional looking Nadu list right now. It's very similar to what Nadu looked like when it got banned. I know a lot of people online haven't been playing Outriders in core, which I think is a mistake because there's been times when I've been playing against other Nadu players and they have Nadu in play and they've got some creatures and then they like chord. They're just like, here's a mana dork. It's like, wouldn't it be nice if you could just kill me? Um, like, yeah, getting to play Skull Clamp even in that deck where I don't have a lot of things to sacrifice, but you do have the Force Brinkheart and Tukos, and you
Hmm.
have the Noble Hierarchs. Skull Clamp is really good, but also, I mean, it's the same thing Nadu did when it was legal. I just have so many games where it's like turn one Saga, turn two Mana Dork, turn three Nadu, go off. I was smart and put a Thassa's Oracle in the list, so I don't have to like just go through loops. Um, and also, I'm playing Once Upon a Time in that deck,
Hmm.
and it's been so unbelievably good. And I know I was talking about how I don't like it in Green White Depths last time, and I stand by that. But in this deck, where it's just like, hey, I'm looking for a Nadu on three, and like, yes, it doesn't find Shuko, but if you cast it on turn one and you find Urza Saga, you also found your Shuko.
Hmm.
And because I have Outriders in core, you can also find that, or Sylvan Safekeeper, or Bristly Bill.
Yeah, and you mentioned the mulliganing can be really tough with this deck, but that's one card that fixes mulligans quite a bit. Whether it's a land or that one combo piece that you need, it's everything. Free spells again, so good, so good.
Yeah. So this, I am 4 matches in. This has actually probably been the best deck that I have played. Just like traditional Nadu. Like it's not as powerful as Breach, but
Hmm.
also the hate that people play against me has felt much weaker. Like when people play Disruptor Flute and and name Nadu because I'm just like, okay, well, I'll Green Sun Zenith for it, I'll Chord for it. Or if they're like, okay, well, name Shuko, it's like, okay, here's the Skull Clamp, or here's a Haywire Might, blow up your thing and kill you. Um, I did lose a match so far, but I also played about as bad as humanly possible in that match, and I'm pretty sure if I had just played okay, I could have won easily. But instead, I was like, how can I make a mistake every turn of this match?
Hmm.
Uh,
And
so yeah, don't
still make it
recommend that.
close. Yeah. Have you tried out Chromox in the Nadu decks? I've seen some people play it just to get your Nadu out a turn quicker, or while you're comboing, giving you a little bit extra mana if you don't hit those lands. Um, yeah, have you tried that out?
I haven't. I don't think I'm particularly interested because you kind of like I think it takes the place of a mana dork would be my guess. But you want your mana dorks because Nadu wants you to have creatures. Um, so I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's worth it. But I also find if you just are consistently going off turn three, um, no other deck is going off turn three as consistently other than maybe Storm.
Hmm.
Um, and so you just have like deafening silences and like you could play Lavinia and other hate cards if you want. And I think just waiting and going off turn three is good enough.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Once you make it out of the first turn or two, like you have the mana dorks, you have the mana, and some good hate pieces, which is good. I for one, I'm not a huge fan of Chromox in general. It's just the card disadvantage that it gives you. You better be winning the game with that additional mana that you have. But even in hands, like I feel like you need to play so many like do multi-face lands to really make Chromox worth it and a really low land count. Because if you have a hand that is 4 lands, a Chromox, and a few spells, and you have to pitch one of those spells just to get that Chromox working, leaves you with so little. The the one chrome or the few Chromox decks in Legacy that we see, like Initiative or obviously like Storm, some of those decks, those can really use it because like the game's ending. When if Chromox resolves, game's over. It doesn't matter that you're down a card. In Modern, when you're not necessarily ending the game, it can be rough. I've seen people try Chromox in just every single deck. Like they see it and their eyes light up because they see free mana. It says Mox on it, so it's got to be good. I think it's a trap.
Yeah, I agree it's a trap. I think in a lot of decks that want it, you don't really have the amount of spells needed
Mhm.
to really warrant it, like you said. And, you mentioned the MDFCs, which is like a great call out, but in a deck like Nadu, I can't play the MDFCs
Mhm.
because I need my lands to enter play, right? And the MDFCs get painful after a certain point. And like, don't get me wrong, I think there's decks that take great advantage of it. Like, I think if you're on Mono Red Prison or
Mhm.
Mono Red Belcher, Mox is insane in your deck because you can afford to play like Shatter Skull Smashing, and I can't think of the names of the other ones, but
Mhm.
you can play those cards, and in those decks, it's insane. Like if you're monocolored, yes,
Mhm.
but I do think people are overplaying it, and I also think when you play it, sometimes it's probably right to just put like 2 copies in your deck and not do the full 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Um, I saw there was a few other cards I haven't seen much or as much floating around. I saw a little bit of Hypergenesis, which I remember from the early days of Modern was always really fun. To me, it seems like it's just worse Living End. At this point, Living End, which has done well recently, actually, uh, it's you cascade into this and it ends the game. Living End has the benefit that you don't need to have those cards in your hand. You just build up the value over time as you're cycling cards or using the evoke elementals like Wistfulness and whatnot. And then you finally end the game and wipe the board. Hypergenesis, you're trying to do it on turn 2 at latest turn 3, but not always ending the game, and it really is mulligan heavy, closer to like Oops All Spells or Belcher all in. If it doesn't work, then oh well. So,
Yeah. So, like, I had an opponent yesterday, like, turn 2 Hypergenesis, and they put in, Urabrask, Progenitus, and Emrakul, I think,
hmm
and I was like, "Yeah, that seems insane." And then in game 2, they just, like, didn't do anything, and then in game 3, they cast Hypergenesis, and I won. 'Cause they, like yeah, no, so in game 2, they cast it as well, and they put in I can't remember what they did. I think they put in an Omniscience, which I could blow up,
hmm
and I don't think they had that much pressure. I think they were just, like, counting on, like, "Let me get this now before they can have hate, and, like, if I draw an Emrakul, then I win," or whatever.
hmm
That just didn't work out for them, and then game 3, it was the same thing. They put in scary stuff, but they didn't have haste. I got to ramp, like, 3 lands, and then I was able to combo them. I actually let them hit me with a Progenitus in one of those games too, and lived, and was like, "Okay, I'll take 10.
Yeah.
Okay, you're dead."
I honestly feel like that card would probably be fine in regular Modern. You
Uh,
have Force
I'd be happy
Mitigation
never
and
seeing it
Consign
again.
to Memory. You have a point. It doesn't necessarily add a lot to the format. It's not like you suddenly add this card and all of a sudden it's a great place and changes things. But I'm always more of a fan of unbanned things if they're not necessarily the power level to be on the ban list. But if it's banned, if it's unbanned, it's probably the same. Sees the same amount of play. So
No, and I do think you're right that there are a lot of counter answers, and I think in this, it's a little bit scarier because they have Simian Spirit Guide to
mhm.
speed. Well, I guess Simian Spirit Guide, yeah, it's banned in Modern. So, yeah. So this is a little bit scarier because they can do it slightly faster, but you're right, we do have Consign, I mean, Force Negation doesn't always work because they can oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Violent
because
Outburst is banned
Violent
too.
Outburst is also banned, so it'd always be on their turn. Deafening Silence
Okay.
also works here. Some of the other Dampening Sphere would work.
It's funny, Violent Outburst was like some of these cards are, like, banned so recently that in my mind, when I see it, I'm just like, "Yeah, this is normal." So, yeah, I think that would be fine. I don't think it would add anything, but I think it would be fine. If it makes people happy, you could
Mhm.
unban it.
I think Jitte would be Umezawa Jitte would be a fun one to play with. There, like Fury was already banned for a very similar. I mean, it was free and it like kind of board wiped, uh, but Jitte actually sees almost similar to level to that. It's pretty slow and you have to hit with it. There's a ton of like you playing Umezawa Jitte and you play against a Amulet Titan player, like they're just not going to do anything. Like there's a lot of decks that just do not care about this card. Of course, if you're playing like Energy, maybe you play it. It's good against Energy, obviously, but even then, I don't know if they would even play it. I don't know if Hammer would even play it. Not that Hammer's necessarily a very popular deck right now anyway, but I don't know. That card, I always have a fun time playing with it. Again, there's also a lot of answers. There's Prismatic Ending, which wasn't necessarily there when it was previously played, things like that. So I think that card could be pretty fun. And I am hoping to see some unbanned or no ban list decks try that out as well.
I don't think you'll see much of it in this format, but I don't think that's necessarily because it's not good, but it's because it's not what this format is about, right? Like, I think this format has a lot of comboing going on, and I don't think there's a lot of creatures. And like, there are creature decks, don't get me wrong. Like, I've played against Energy multiple times, and some of Hogak's draws are just creature decks,
Hmm.
but I feel like it's just not a good environment for GT.
That makes sense. Similar reason for Uro or Field of the Dead. These or Yorion, one of my favorites. You're not probably not going to see as much of that. Just with you're asking for long, 8, 10 turn games when Storm is trying to kill you on turn 2 or turn 3, or Breach or Hogak or all of the above, then you're probably not going to get there. This is definitely more of a format where it's all about being proactive. I saw some people comparing it to Legacy, and I think kind of the difference there is for no ban list modern is it's the threats are so much more powerful than the answers. In Legacy, you have a lot of answers that are equally, if not more powerful than the threats. So even though you have the potential, like if you're just goldfishing, then yes, Oops All Spells is crazy powerful deck, but you have, Forcible Days, things like that. So modern, much more proactive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Speaking of Oops, another deck that we have in this format. Blech.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite. Who needs lands?
Yeah, everyone's favorite.
Yeah, that has been doing decently well in Legacy lately as well. There's been a few top eights with, and I think it won a few challenges with Oops, which it is
I
what it is.
I will say it was funny when I played against it. I played against it and I was on Breach. And it was like post board,
Mhm.
both games. I just went like turn 1 Soul Guide Lantern, turn 2 Soul Guide Lantern. I was like, can you win?
Yeah,
I don't think you can. Like, my opponent went for it in one of those games. I was like, I don't see what's happening here. They cast Memory Journey and response. I was like, I don't think this does anything still. But it is a scary deck.
yeah. That's another deck for those 4 Leyline of the Voids that people are popping in their sideboards. Shuts it right down.
Yeah, this format's just been so cool. So like, if you are a legacy player, and you haven't given it, like, if you're a legacy player who's on Moto and you haven't given it a shot yet, I absolutely would, right? It's something a little different. But I don't know. I think this format's so fun. And we have a friend who's like really into pre-modern. He's like, I don't understand how you could like that. You don't care about pre-modern. But for some of us, and this isn't going to be true for everyone, like the pre-modern cards just like don't have any appeal to me. They don't really have a nostalgia. And I know people say the format's got more than nostalgia, but like I don't know. I don't care about those formats. I don't care about those cards. Like, some of them are fun. Like, yes, I would be happy playing with Sylvan Library. Yes, Survival of the Fittest would take me back to my EDH days. But like, I enjoy playing with powerful cards. So if you like playing with powerful cards, then this format's really fun. I also played with a lot of these cards, whether it was in modern or some of you may have played these cards in standard. I don't really think I played with too many of the banned cards in standard, um, which is funny because I've been around for those standards. I just didn't play with the cards.
Mhm.
But this format's just been fun getting to see some of these cards that like I used to see. Getting like I was never a Hogak player in Modern. I've played some in Legacy, but it's enjoyable for me to see that card again and think about those play patterns. It's also like interesting. I played a match yesterday where my opponent did something that put their 5th land in the yard, and I was like, herp, herp, herp. And I had a Soul Guide Lantern in play and didn't crack it, and they played their Hogak as like, I'm dumb and out of practice. It was like the second I hit okay, I was like, Oh no. I slowly see everything tap and just like, how could I do this? I don't know, it's fun activating a different part of the brain. It's fun seeing these cards again. It's fun trying to come up with something that hasn't been explored. I'm just really enjoying playing this format.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching it as well, and this just brings up pre-modern and the contraptions that they're doing in Magic Online so far have been a huge hit from what I could tell. People really enjoyed playing pre-modern when it was on there. People are really enjoying playing this no ban this modern. I think it was a great idea to try out some of these lesser known formats, even if it's for a short amount of time, which for some of them it's sort of like how Vintage Cube used to only be around like winter and the beginning of the year, where you could just, you knew it was going to be that time of year. You could just book like this weekend, I'm just going to play this. Like having these short time formats, really cool. So they don't get stale or anything from being around too long. So it's been cool to see them. Well, I wonder what they're going to do next. I don't know if they release a schedule or not, but I haven't
No,
seen
I mean,
one.
this one just came up, so I am curious for you. I know you haven't played the format yet, but you've been watching it a bunch, and obviously we just talked about it a bunch. So this is a two-part question. If you were to play the format just for a league, just to have fun, what would you play? And then the follow-up is you're playing it for like an actual event with stakes. What would you play?
So it really depends on how big the stakes are, but
Big enough
uh,
that you care.
like 8-ounce steak or something. So it would be, I would, if I was just playing in a league, I'd play Birthing Pod because that card is so much fun. If I was playing in a tournament that I really wanted to top eight, I would probably play Breach. It is a very resilient combo deck and it kills very quickly, and it is a ton of fun as well. That would be my answer there. I'll play Birthing Pod for fun, Breach for the chance to win. And maybe a deck with both. I bet I could make that work. Two very different concepts, but why not? Just put Yuri on. You have all the room.
Set this to my birthing pod, replay it because of Breach.
They kill your birthing pod, just replay it with Breach, and then go off with birthing pod. I think we're starting something.
I don't think that's what's happening.
Yeah. So that's probably what I would do. Might try some like Punishing Fires or something too, because I also enjoy getting back Punishing Fire with Grove of the Burn Willow, which I haven't seen much of that, but that
There's a
value
reason.
and Dak Faden's not legal in modern, so I can't really do that. But I wish I could. That card should be in modern. That would have been pretty cool. I think it's just in the conspiracy set, so yeah, which is not legal. Okay, well, never mind.
I mean, it could be in modern and it'd be fine.
Yeah. So going off of what you were saying, you have had the most success with Eldrazi. Is that where you would be in for a
No,
tournament?
no, it's what I've seen doing
Hmm.
the best. It actually was my worst league. It's funny enough. I still think the deck's really good, but
Yeah.
no, for me, I would probably play Nadu. It would be really close between Nadu and Breach, but like I said, I just think you're gonna run into more hate with
Hmm.
Breach. So I think the path is a little bit easier with Nadu.
Yeah.
Um, man, it's close though. As much as I love the bird, I do actually prefer Breach. Um,
You could play both. That is a deck that
so
actually has seen play, or two
it,
decks that have seen play together.
Yes. I don't think it saw a lot of play together. I would say you and I were probably a good chunk of the way it saw together.
Yeah, that's fair. So all in all, fun format. I know we got a chance of playing Two-Headed Giant this past weekend, to play some Ninja Turtles. So I know in future episodes we're going to be talking a little bit about the cards that we saw there. I know Sewer Valence Cam's a card that is coming out that could be very interesting. So we'll see what that shows up. That some painter decks or maybe anything else. Skateboard also another card that we're excited to see what that does in the format, in a few different formats. So definitely going to be bringing those up in the future and talking through that set. But all in all, as far as the limited set goes, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I had some fun. Some very powerful cards. We got completely blown out in one of our games, because was it Master Splinter?
No, Super Shredder.
Super Shredder? I'm not a big turtle head myself, but but it was cool. I know you really enjoyed it. You were watching the show before we went to pre-release, but
Yes,
and singing the song.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
There it
Like the
is.
'80s show was delightful.
Yeah, it was
It's
cool.
just so good. Yeah, I enjoyed the format too, though. I definitely have only seen good things from the people who have actually gone and played the format. Like I've seen a
Hmm.
lot of people who are just like, I'm never giving it a shot. Which, you know, if that's what you want to do, whatever, more power to you.
Hmm.
I have seen basically only like I enjoyed this format. This format was a lot of fun. Limited was fun. I'm curious to see if that holds over to draft because
Hmm.
a good seal does not always equal good draft and vice versa. But yeah, it was definitely fun. Like you said, I felt like the cards were really powerful, which is funny because when looking at them through a constructed lens, most of them were not powerful.
Hmm.
Like you talked about, I'm personally really excited for Surveillance Cam. Skateboard, I think, is just like a strict upgrade to Lava Spur Boots. The blue, one of the Krang cards is already top aided 4 seasons. Um,
I didn't see that
yeah,
the Krang
yeah,
Mastermind did.
yeah, in the Modern Affinity deck. Although the player then posted online that he boarded it out every game and wouldn't recommend playing. So
I'll ignore
love
that.
to see that. Uh,
well, well, it almost felt like that. If
yeah. Which speaking of Affinity, I played that after we talked about it on the last show. I
hmm.
was like, you know, I haven't actually played the Grixis versions yet, and I think I went 4-1. But man, did that feel like one of the worst decks I've ever played in my life. It was just like there were so many artifacts that didn't do anything because you're
Hmm.
so all in on the weapons manufacturing thing.
Hmm.
And it's just like it just kept looking at these hands and was like, none of this does anything. And I would win, but honestly, I won off the back of now I'm blanking on it. The 6/4 that you can play by stacking
Oh,
three
the
things.
is it Colossus or something like that?
I don't know, but we talked about
Yeah.
it on the last episode. I just resolved that a bunch of
Hmm.
times and it was like always good enough. But like the deck itself was bad. I
Hmm.
don't know. I've played Affinity before and it was good, but like you're just it was trying too hard.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, that's definitely fair. So yeah, back to Ninja Turtles. The interesting thing for at least sealed for that is felt like you said, like even uncommons were like I feel like this could be a rare, but everything is so synergy based that you're really rewarded for having some of those like strong like color pair combinations. Um, the black white like sneak strategy I was not expecting to be very good because it requires so much setup. You need unblocked creatures, and plus your opponent's going to know like well, they probably have a sneak effect, so they'll probably block it. But I was surprised with how many opponents, whether it was the right decision or not, like didn't block certain creatures. Or like okay, then I'll sneak this in. Um, and it was surprisingly fun, especially in Two-Headed Giant where there's just more blockers, so it's a little bit more difficult, but it still ended up working out pretty well. The interesting part about sneak that I realized is sneaking is casting, whereas ninjutsu is an activated ability. So just an interesting dynamic there that you have to kind of conceptualize. Like one of them you can counter, the other one you can't. Well,
yeah,
unless you have consign to memory or stifle or something, not consign.
and it didn't come up for us, but I can only imagine returning your creature and then getting your replacement thing countered has to just feel atrocious.
But yeah, like essence scatters in that format. It's gotta feel pretty bad. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, that was a fun weekend. So I wanted to give a shout out to a few events that are coming up in the Philadelphia area. If people are interested, please come out. A lot of these are legacy events. So on March 7th, we have two actual legacy 1Ks or scaling events in the area. One's at Mainline Chess, and the other's at Top Deck Games in New Jersey. On the 14th of March, there's actually a legacy event at Alternate Universes Bluebell, which is Maps and I's local store that we love going to and supporting. They also have
I will not
Friday
be
night.
there though.
Oh, well, Maps and sometimes supports the store. They have
They're doing
Friday
it on
Night
my anniversary
Legacy.
weekend.
priorities. Come on. That is definitely the right decision. Then I also want to give a big shout out to On the Draw Games in Pottstown. So they actually have a team event coming up on the 22nd of March. So this is a modern legacy vintage event. And if you're thinking like, I don't have a vintage player or I don't have a modern player or one of those things, they are like a test card friendly environments. Even if you know somebody who's just able to play those but doesn't necessarily have a mox in or something like that, like definitely show up anyway. I think they plan on having an artist there as well, so it's going to be a really cool event. Again, for that one, I actually won't be there either. Mapson will be there, but I think I'll be in Florida for that one, so gonna unfortunately miss it, but it will be a fun time.
It's worth noting if we're going to call out on the draws events on the 15th, they're also holding Legacy.
Yeah. Yep, they have monthly legacy and vintage events on Sundays usually, which is a little bit different from some other events. Usually events happen on Saturdays, so if your work schedule doesn't allow for that, having it on Sundays definitely helps out a little bit. So I know that's really helpful for you, Mapson, as someone who
Yes.
sometimes has to work on Saturdays. It can be really helpful. But yeah, that's all we had. Anything else you want to add, Mapson?
No, I am going to be in Richmond this weekend for the SCG Con. Because of the nature of the formats, I can't imagine a ton of our listeners are going to be there.
Mhm.
But if you are and you see a judge that looks like me, it probably is me. Feel free to come say hi. I'll be there. So yeah.
That's great. All right. So where can people find you if they want to ask you more about potential Nadu lists?
Like I said, you can find me in Richmond. You can also find me online at Expedition Map, and then you can find the show on Blue Sky or YouTube at Eternal Witnesses Podcast.
Great. You can find me probably somewhere, maybe at one of these local legacy events, but online, usually on Discord on Dr. Catkin. And with that, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for
See you in
joining.
2 weeks.